Hello everyone, my name is Stefan. I'm a PM on the remote desktop services team, and what I'm going to show you today is the process of registering a VM with the Windows Virtual Desktop Service. A few things before we start. The most common way people are using Windows Virtual Desktop today is by using the Create Session Host Pool template that's available in the Azure Marketplace. So what that the template does is what we're going to do manually. So the first step is to obviously get a VM in Azure. So here is a VM that I have provisioned about an hour ago. It's a Windows Server 2019 VM, and there is a particular reason why I am doing this demo with Windows Server and not Windows 10 Enterprise. So the VM is up and running. We're gonna RDP into it, and we'll make sure that the VM meets the prerequisites required for the service. Mainly, it is domain joined. So here is the VM. I'm gonna go into the control panel, and we're gonna make sure that the VM is indeed domain joined. Yes, the VM is part of my domain, as expected. Excellent. Now, there is another prerequisite, and the main reason behind using Windows Server 2019 for this demo. That is that for a server VM to be part of Windows Virtual Desktop, we need to make sure that the session host server row is being added. And then just for those that are not familiar, this is how it's done. You go into the select server roles, and you can see I have already installed it. I've pre-installed it because it takes one restart for the domain join and one restart for the role, and I didn't feel like including that into the video. There's plenty of documentation on this in docs.microsoft.com. Okay, with that, our VM is ready to go, and the next step, which is part of the ARM template flow, but here we will need to do manually, is we'll need to go to PowerShell and actually configure the service, the Windows Virtual Desktop service itself for this machine. And to do that, obviously we'll need PowerShell. So let's open the PowerShell ICE editor, and I've done that in administrative mode. Why? Because if this is the first time you're running it, you will need administrative privileges to install the PowerShell modules. In my case, they're already installed, so this is a non-event for me. I do have two helper variables. Okay, and then I'm gonna authenticate against the service. And here I'm gonna provide an account that has RDS owner on the Windows Virtual Desktop tenant. Just a reminder, as preparation for this, you need to create your tenant, you need to grant consent, you need to have the proper permissions. Once I'm authenticated, and I can see that based on the returned output of the add RDS account commandlet, I am gonna go ahead and I'm gonna execute the new RDS host pool command. This is gonna create a host pool under my tenant with the name that I have specified, which is Windows Server 2019. The next step is the generation of the registration token, and then exporting that token to a text file so we can reference it later. I'm gonna execute the command. Okay, so we have a token, we have a host pool. This is the point where we need to figure out which users will need to be granted permissions to this host pool. And I'm assigning my own user. Let's go ahead. And then I'm gonna set up a friendlier name for the remote desktop, so it just does not show up as a session desktop, but it actually shows up as Windows Server 2019. And just to confirm that I do not have any VMs, I'm gonna execute the get RDS session host, and you can see no VMs are registered, which is exactly what we need to do. Now we need to take that token of ours, and we need to go into the virtual machine in Azure and do the next step. So here we will need to download and get on this virtual machine the remote desktop agent and the remote desktop bootloader. I have already provided them. Just a quick reminder, they're on our docs.microsoft.com documentation pages, and under the Create a Host Pool with PowerShell page. And just in case, if you don't have that handy, I'm gonna show it really quickly on the screen. Here is the page that you need to be referencing, and the two links are down here on the bottom, and it's clearly listed in which order you will need to perform the installation. So we're gonna start with the agent. We're gonna click next, and this is the first point where we're actually asked for the registration token. So let's go to the path where we exported the registration token, open that file, and provide it over here. So on my local machine, I got my token file. I'm gonna open it, and don't worry, even if you are able to capture this token, it expires in 72 hours, so by the time this video is out there, it will be long gone. Okay, we provide the token, we'll click next, and then we're gonna do install. Excellent. The install takes about 20-30 seconds, a minute. It really depends on how powerful the virtual machine that you have is. Okay, and I am done with the agent. Now we need to go and install the second component, which is the bootloader. Let's go install that. That is all that needs to happen. Now I'm back in PowerShell, and I'm gonna execute the same command as before, and you can see that this time I am actually being returned a session host, and excellent, the host is there, good, and then we go to status, and there's no heartbeat, and update state is initial. So this is what is happening at the moment. As soon as we install the agent and the bootloader, the two components go and phone home to the service, to the Windows Virtual Desktop service, and they ask, is there a newer version? And if there is one, they're gonna go ahead and install and update themselves. So this is what is happening here. So this process, it really depends on where, in which region your Azure your host pools are. It will depend on how fast your machine is. So I'm gonna pause the video now and come back as soon as this is done. So it's a little bit later, and you can see the status has changed from initial to upgrading. Excellent. We'll be back in a few more minutes. So the total process for me took about 3 minutes, but as you can see right now on the screen in the bottom dark blue part, we have the status available, the update state succeed, and what's update time as of literally like this is based on the Azure VM, so it's about 3 minutes ago. That is exactly what I would like to see. And let's go ahead and sign in as my user that we've assigned it this host pool. And you can see my user here, Stefan, sees a Windows Server 2019 session host icon. We'll go ahead and connect to that icon. We'll double click on it and we'll enter our credentials. Oops. As you can see, I haven't set up any of the session host, or this is the very first time, so it will be a little bit slower. Just a disclaimer. I'm gonna go ahead and provide my credentials. And now if I type my password correctly, okay, I didn't, let's go and try again. And now that I have the correct credentials entered, you can see it's actually establishing my session on the VM. And I'll show you a confirmation of that in about a minute. Very first time my session is established for this host pool on this VM, it is expected to be slower as it is setting up the profile. Let's go here and do a quick operation to confirm everything is as I've been saying, and mainly that this is indeed the VM. So we're going to do host name, I think was the command, no, it's computer name. Okay, so the computer name is SW Server Windows 2019, and let's do the IP address 10.0.0.14, and as a confirmation I'm gonna go back into the VM in Azure, ipconfig, and you can see it's the same IP address, same computer name, and the final proof. You can see the user Stefan has been logged in. That's it. So what we did was register a VM with Windows Virtual Desktop manually. So what we did was we joined the VM to the domain, prerequisite, mandatory. We installed the RSH role, since this is a Windows Server machine, that was required. Then we went ahead, we downloaded the 2 agents required as part of the service. Then we went into PowerShell, and using the PowerShell commandlet, we configured a new host pool, we configured a new registration token, we assigned our user, Stefan at WVD Cantoso, access to this host pool. And finally, we went with that user and we connected. That's about it. Thank you for your time.